I am Tanisha Shanee. I am the founder of Healing for Purpose, and I thank you for taking some time today. So the topic today is we're just discussing which two of the two, which one is most important? Do we need more wisdom or do we need knowledge? And this topic was birthed from my studies of Dr. Myles Munroe, who has transitioned, but his teachings are still teaching us. And of one video, I just took one concept that I felt was so imperative to really go over. So when we think about knowledge, knowledge is just information, right? Information that we gain on various topics. It is information that we get from different sources. So we have a lot of information. We have the internet that is giving us information. We have school, we have conferences. People are buying books, they are listening to podcasts, they're watching YouTube videos, they're talking to God, they're reading the Bible, they're going places and they're just gathering all of this information. So knowledge is very important. Knowledge is information. The problem that becomes is so many of us, we have a lot of knowledge, we have a lot of information, and that's it, right? So we go to all of these different sources to gain all of this information, to gain all of this knowledge, but it really starts to become to the point where we start to understand, like, but is this the most important problem? Is this the most important thing to have? And we're going to continue as we really digest this and understand which of the two, wisdom or knowledge, is most important. So once we have all of this knowledge, what we should do is now we should get into a space of what do I understand about this new information, this new knowledge that I have, right? Because understanding is comprehension. Okay, so you can have all of the knowledge, you can go to all of the conferences, you can have multiple degrees, and the truth be told is you do not have a full comprehension of it. You just have attended, you have gathered, and there's nothing that's really resonating for you. So when I say that understanding is comprehension, is that not after you have paid for it, after you have sat through it, after you have received all of this, now I want you to really sit and digest what were you taught. So you might have been taught like 50 concepts, but what of that are you going to now evaluate whether or not you believe in it, whether or not it is something that is going to now transform your life, right? So this is how we start to make decisions. Because now that we have all of this information, and now that we are really sitting to comprehend this information, we can now start to make decisions. You're not doing anything, there's no actions. This is just all in the mental. This is where the evaluation comes of, hey, is this something that I want to actually do? So let's think about driving a car, okay? We all have, from little kids, there's some children that have always been, having a mindset that they want to learn how to drive. So they go to school, right? If they live in a city or the state that does have, like New York City, we didn't have driver's ed. Not, at least my school did. But there were some kids in other cities and states that were like, when I get to high school, I'm going to take driver's ed. And they are taking a class right there. So they're getting the knowledge, they're taking the class to learn about driving. They learn about the safety rules. They learn about all of these different things. But then they have to now sit and determine, is this really for me? Should I go and try? Because, in them classes, they teach about manual driving and then the automated driving. So a person can make an informed decision based off of what they have been taught. Some people don't feel comfortable driving a stick shift. So their comprehension of it, because they have sat and digested, they have an understanding. So now they're able to transform their lives by saying, you know what? When I go and actually start taking classes, I am not going to take the classes for a stick shift. I'm going to take the classes so that I can have an automated car. That is taking that knowledge and having understanding so you can comprehend, right? This is a part of decision making. But the part that is most important, the part that just makes so much sense to me is after we have all of this knowledge, after we have a full understanding, wisdom starts to come into play. Because wisdom is actually application. Wisdom is when we actually start to apply it, right? So that student, that teenager that has now made a decision not to learn how to drive stick shift is now going to do what? They're going to go out and they're going to start to apply for classes, and they're going to start to apply what they have learned. This is where wisdom, and Myles Munroe, his definition was, and I totally love it, and I'm going to apply it now. Wisdom is when knowledge is understood and applied. I'm going to say that again. Wisdom is when knowledge is understood and applied. Woo! Dr. Myles Munroe also said, nothing is complete until wisdom is applied. Nothing is complete. So again, you can go to school, you can get degrees, you can go to conferences, you can get certificates. You can sit, you can digest it. But if you never apply anything, then there is no wisdom there. You just still have knowledge. What you learn, you have to apply. What you comprehend, you must apply. So when we look at whether or not what wisdom or information or wisdom or knowledge is most important, I will always say that wisdom is most important. Wisdom is something that will only give us the results that we want, right? Because if you never apply anything, then you're never going to know whether or not the information that you have been given is true or whether it's false. You actually have to apply it. And this is the problem that at least I've had from a little girl. I never understood why people would go to school, right? And I've done it because I can tell you my bachelor's degree, I did not start using the communications part of it until many years later. My first job right out of college was at a bank. So here I was with a bachelor's degree in communications. I had gained all of this knowledge, right? I was hoarding the knowledge. I was hoarding it. But I never got to apply it the way that we were taught to. Like, the goal is you're going to go to school and get this degree, and now you're going to go get a job so that you can apply these skills. And I never did that. I never had that opportunity. I never had an actual full-time job as a publicist the way that I envisioned. I understood, I knew what it was that what it meant. I understood the definitions. I understood what the information meant, but I never applied it. And then it wasn't until years later when I started to lose the weight and I started to share my story. Don't you know that's when the wisdom started to be applied? That's when. It wasn't until like 2012, 2013. I finished college 2005. That's when I could not afford a publicist. So I took the knowledge that I had from college, from my internships at Interscope, at Rockefeller Records, and I started to apply it in 2013, 2014, when I started to share my story. I was taking all of this information that it was just sitting within me. And I said, okay, if I want to share my story and I want to share it on a larger scale, I need to get my story into XYZ publications. And I started to apply myself and started to put the same work that a publicist, I could have paid a publicist $3,000 a month to do the same exact work, but I didn't have to because I had the information already. I just never applied it. But now here I was applying it. And this is how my story was able to get into publications like Cosmo, Everyday Health. It wasn't just that something that I knew. It was because It was something that I had studied, but I had never applied. But there are so many people that study many different things and they never get a chance to apply it. So we have to get to this point where we start to apply wisdom. And I'm gonna really blow your mind, because not only is that wisdom is key, but wisdom comes from God. In James 1, verse 5, if any of you lack wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all. That is in the Bible. So that actually means, and I know some people are going to say that's not nice to say, but you can be academically intelligent, but you can lack a lot of wisdom. I'm going to say that again. You can be academically intelligent, but lack wisdom. If you're not applying anything that you have learned, you just are a hoarder of knowledge. If you never apply anything that you have learned, then you are a hoarder of knowledge. I don't want to be a hoarder of knowledge. I don't want to just be intelligent and be smart. I want to be wise, but my wisdom is not coming from just the information. My wisdom is coming from the application. My wisdom is coming from God telling me that, yes, that's what I need you to do. My wisdom is coming from the reason when I sit and God just gives me information that I never even studied. Do you know how many times I have sat down, taken an exam on a topic that I knew nothing about? I never studied it. But the first thing that I did before I even answered any question was say, hey, God, can you help me with this? Because I don't know any of this. So at that time, God is becoming my source of information. And as I'm sitting there, catch this, as I am sitting there, taking an exam on a topic that I have no knowledge of, but God is giving me the knowledge. God is giving me the answers. And I'm listening, and now I'm applying it. And then I pass. If I would have learned that a long time ago, I would have been in a different place in my life. Because God is going to give it to you. He's going to give you the answers. He's going to give you the wisdom. This is why when people they discredit when a child speaks. There are children out here across this world preaching at the age of 7, who's saving souls, who's prophesying, who is healing people at 7 years old. That child has already tapped into a level of wisdom that this world will never understand. And that's why they will see a child in that predicament, in that space, because it's not a predicament, but they will see a child in that space and they'll be like, oh, that's not right. There's no way that child is mimicking someone. No, that's God. That's God giving them the wisdom. See, they didn't have to go through the whole process of going to seminary school and learning how to do certain things. God naturally gave it to them and they're listening. They just happen to activate it at 7 years old. Some of us never get to that point of activating wisdom until we're well in our 30s, 40s, some people 50s and 60s. We have to want the wisdom. The knowledge is there. The information is there. You can buy information all day long. Information is purchased, but wisdom isn't. Wisdom is not purchased. Because like I said, you can buy all this information today and never use it. But when you go to apply it, in essence, you did pay for it in some manner, whether it's through time, whether it's through you actually sat and you paid for something tangible, for a degree, a certificate, but you did pay for it in a way. But when you start to apply it at that particular time, there's no cost to it. When we apply wisdom, there is no cost to it. We just have to apply it. That's all God needs us to do. That's why some of us, the answer is not go get another degree. The answer is not go get another certificate. The answer is sit with the information that you have. Start to understand the information that you have. Start to comprehend the information that you have, and then put together a plan and a strategy so you can start to apply it. The plan is not to go get some more knowledge. Some of you have millions of dollars worth of knowledge. If I showed y'all my credit report right now, you would be like, what? I've paid for a lot of knowledge. I've paid for a lot of knowledge. But the one thing I asked God to do, and the one thing I believe God to do, is that even though I paid for a lot of knowledge, the wisdom that God is going to give me is going to pay back for everything that I paid for in knowledge. Wisdom makes you wealthy. Wisdom is going to give you the true essence of happiness. The wisdom is going to really show you what success is, right? Knowledge is a key. It's not the key to success. Knowledge is a key. There's multiple keys to success. Knowledge is not the key, because most of you have that mindset. Most of you are walking around here with a whole bunch of knowledge, but you're not applying any of it. So therefore, you still lack wisdom. Just knowing the answer, just knowing that 2 + 2 = 4, that's great. Just knowing what the moon does, what the sun does, that is great. But how do you apply that? I'll give you a last example. When I decided to lose weight and be serious about it, by that time, I already had years of knowledge, right? Years of information. I had information about the pyramid. I had information about weight loss surgery. I had information about, about smoothies, shakes. I had knowledge about it all, about the gym, about personal trainers. I had knowledge about it all. It wasn't until I really started to do some understanding of what does all of this actually means. So I still had this information, but it wasn't until October 2012 when I actually started to apply certain things. And when I started to apply them consistently, I started to see results. So it wasn't that what the information that was out there wasn't correct. It was that I was not ready to apply it. I wasn't ready to comprehend and understand what this really meant, and I was not ready to apply it. So, of course, initially, my answer to everyone is, this is hard. I cannot do it, because I was just looking at the information. Information can be very intimidating. This is why many people do not finish. This is why weight loss surgery is one of the easiest things today to get, because it's the information, the digesting of, so what are macros? What kind of nutrients do I need? Do I need to drink water? How much water do I need to drink? What type of fruits should I eat? What type of vegetables? No one wants to go through the whole process of understanding, because there's a lot of information to filter through. But when you start to apply just certain things and you see the results, that's wisdom. And see, I really got that information. Everything that I got from how do I get started came from God. It was like I was hearing God for the first time, and I got a whole shopping list. Go to the supermarket and buy this: water, chicken breast, salad, grapefruits. That was my starter kit for how I started to lose weight. That was my starter kit. Almost 400 pounds. Couldn't see my weight on the scale. But I had all this information. At that time, I had 2.5 degrees. I should have been able to understand this, but I didn't. So then I had to tap into another source of information. And once I started to tap into that source of information, I started to see results. Everything just started to make sense. So if you ever ask yourself, knowledge or wisdom, I'm going to encourage you to go with wisdom. That's always going to be the answer. So I am Tanisha Shanee, and I thank you. And I hope that this message has resonated with you. I hope it has given you some insight. I hope that it has invited you. And that's really my prayer. My prayer is that you start to invite God into this process with you. I want you all to start praying for wisdom because that's what we need today. We need wisdom. We don't need more knowledge. We need to activate and transform that information into new wisdom, into new actions. And I guarantee you, when you start to act out of wise decisions, you're going to start seeing things around you are going to start changing, opportunities that you never thought, growth that you never experienced before. A lot of things are not going to be the same because now you're in the process of application, of applying it. Right? That's why there's certain words that we must use, and there's certain words that we must eliminate from our vocabulary in order for us to get to the place that we want to be. You don't want to just have a vault of knowledge. I want you to become a walking man or woman of wisdom, where you start to understand, because wisdom is going to give you a mindset that others are not going to understand. Because again, you can be academically intelligent, but you lack wisdom. You can have all of the accolades and still not be a wise person because everything is logical. And I'm telling you this from the type of person that I used to be. I used to be that person. Everything had to be logical. If it wasn't, if P then equal Q, then guess what? It's not true. That's how my mind works. If P then Q, and if it's false, then it's false. That's how my mind works. But when I started to understand that that's not how God works, it's like, okay, that's cute. That's great. I need you to have this knowledge. I need you to have this information because people do need it. But what I really need you to have is wisdom. And that is what's one thing that I know God is using me to share. So I hope that this message has blessed you. And I thank you. And if you are not following me, click on the bell, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll be back next week with yet another message. Again, thank you. Have a great one.